Hi, my name's Karina, and I'm a Spanish tutor at the Learning Center. And today I want to talk a little bit about direct object and indirect object pronouns and how they're used. This would be something for Spanish 201 people or 202 people, and most likely a good review for 301 or 302, or maybe even 102, depending on what your class is doing. So direct object and indirect objects you can find in a sentence, such as Paul eats the pasta. So, and we'll talk a little bit more how to identify these. But first, I want to talk about the specifically the pronouns that would replace certain words. So for direct objects, you have me, te, lo, la, nos, os, los, and las. And indirect objects, you have me, te, le, nos, os, les. So as you can see, the big difference between these is that if you're referring to a thing or her or him, you would use lo, la, or los, or las for direct objects. And then for indirect objects, you'd use le or les. And this is a main distinguishing factor of how to use this. And then in order to figure out if you are going to be replacing a direct object or an indirect object in a sentence, what you want to think about are these two words. With the direct object, you want to think about what. So you want to think about what the thing is. And for an indirect object, you want to think about to whom or for whom is the action being done. So let's take a sentence. Paul eats pasta. So the first thing we want to do with this sentence is we want to find the verb. And as we know, the verb is eats. And then what is being eaten? The pasta. So that is the direct object because that is what the verb is being done to. So the pasta is being eaten directly. And then who is eating the pasta? Who is doing the action? Paul is doing the action. So Paul would be the indirect object. And once we have that figured out, we can figure out that Paul would be replaced with le because it's singular, and pasta would be replaced with la because it's la pasta and it's singular. And so that's a direct object, pasta, Paul, indirect object. So we have le here. So in Spanish, that sentence would be Paul come la pasta. And it can also help you to understand that if a word usually has la or l in front, it'll most likely be a direct object. But that's a little tricky. That can change once in a while. So Paul, we can replace him with le. So we could say le come la pasta. Or we could replace la pasta with la. So Paul, and then we would say Paul come la, or we could say Paul la come, which would be Paul eats it. And so that's usually the sentence structure if you're replacing the direct object. And then if we were to say you could even say le come. You'd say le la come. And then this is another important thing. If you have le lo or le la, you want to replace the le with se, because you might see some sentences where you have the direct object and the indirect object being changed. And so you can never have le lo or le la. So you would just replace the le, the indirect object pronoun, with se. So it'd be se la come. And that means he eats it. He eats the pasta. Paul eats the pasta. So that's just a little review on direct object pronouns and indirect object pronouns.